So thanks everybody for joining tonight's call. And tonight we're going to hear from 4 experts who've been navigating the AI impact. I'm going to kick off by framing our discussion, and then we'll hear from our panel. We've got lots of questions for them, and we'll hopefully close with a Q&A and get all your questions answered. So, all right. So our discussion tonight is going to include both assistive agents and autonomous agents. And of course, assistive agents are like ChatGPT and the other LLMs we've now been using for a couple of years. Autonomous agents are those that can act independently once they're given a goal. So now they can do cool things like, find documents, update Salesforce, they can notify people in Slack. They can generate reports and do all of this without any human input. So think about this. Today, what % of your buyers already rely on AI to research vendors? So what we're learning is that the sales conversations are happening much farther down the funnel. So before, it used to be that we had people, they'd go to Google and they'd end up on your website and then talk to sales. But now with AI agents, the agents are controlling the first 70% of the buyer's journey, and you don't even know that it's happening. So while you've been optimizing landing pages, buyers have already changed how they discover, evaluate, and decide on their vendors. So by the time those prospects reach out, they have already done competitive analysis, pricing research, and a capability assessment. So the buyer's journey that you thought you understood, it's now happening before you even know there's interest. And here's where the numbers get really brutal. Google has turned into just a place for window shopping. And when AI overviews appear on a Google search results page, only 1 to 7% of people click through to a website. And that means that blue links, they're just becoming invisible. So your content is being consumed without a visit, without a conversion opportunity. And this isn't even about lower search rankings. You can still be #1 in position and still lose 50% of your traffic to an AI summary. This is the reality according to, So according to Forrester, who did a survey last fall, they're saying that instead of buyers discovering you through the usual content marketing mechanisms, they've already asked ChatGPT for a vendor recommendation. So the result is that by the time sales gets involved, 92% of buyers already know who they're going to consider. And I ran this quick prompt, 17 words, 5 seconds. I asked for the top CMS vendors. I've got pricing and highlights. And if you're selling CMS platform and you aren't in my list, then the deal's going to completely skip your company. So agents own the early funnel, and we have to figure out how to be here when they do. And another big change that's happening is that the people making the buying decisions now are AI natives. They're those millennials who are, 29 to 44, and they use AI tools 2.5 times more than an older generation, and they are increasingly skipping Google. So your first visitor is no longer human, it's an AI agent. And that means that they don't click, fill out forms, or even open emails. So MQLs, click-through rates, and time on page, those are all losing value. So the real question is, what's going to replace all of this? So let's hear from our panel who have been navigating this shift firsthand. And I'm going to start with having Barbara introduce herself, and then we'll go through the rest of the panel, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of our questions. So take it away, Barbara.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. So my name's Barbara Gray. I'm an equity analyst and the founder of Brady Capital Research. For the last 8 years, I've been researching the convergence of technological, societal, and economic disruption for my institutional investment and corporate clients. And since ChatGPT launched, so pretty much since the end of January 2023, I've been exclusively focused on AI. And mainly, most of my focus is on the 7 tech giants.
And let's go to Alden, please. You already gave a little bit of an intro, but maybe you can flesh it out slightly for us.
Yeah, thanks, Rosemary. My name is Alden. I'm the CEO and founder of CustomGPT.ai. We are a no-code platform for people, businesses mostly, to build custom AI agents without requiring any coding and developers. So this topic is interesting to me because we are a B2B SaaS too, and this concept of AEO and receiving SEO traffic is extremely important to us as we want to drive conversions and customers.
Thank you. And Jeff, for some reason you have my name in your little label, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'll be Rosemary for the day, I guess. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Jeff Rigo. I'm a serial MarTech entrepreneur. As one of the OGs in marketing automation, prior to Marketo and HubSpot kind of following what we were doing. And been using AI since AI was not cool. I'm the co-founder of a company called Hushly. Our customers use our product to educate buyers faster. So we've been using AI as part of the product since 2017. We use that to do content similarity models, to recommend content, path reversal models. We also, prior to ChatGPT, et cetera, allowed users to converse with the video that they were looking, and then ChatGPT came up and everything else became cool. So we're pushing the boundaries in terms of how we can use AI to educate buyers faster. And now we're looking at how do we educate agents better, right? So that's me, and happy to be here.
Thank you. And Pat?
Hey, thanks, Rosemary. Great to meet everybody. So Pat McQueen, I'm with Revere AI, and we believe that the change that we're going through right now is as significant as the change from the phone book to search. We used to use Yellow Pages, we don't anymore. We now have AI. It's going to be a pretty darn significant change to AI, just like it is to search. So I really look forward to the conversation today.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to start with Barbara with this question. How real is the agentic web, and is this hype or the real deal?
Oh, it's definitely the real deal. What you're seeing the ad tech giants like Google and Meta platforms. They're basically transitioning into intelligent search and into creative content machines, where before they reach the final state, which is agentic commerce. And what we're seeing is, you are seeing the agentic web, because when I go on and search ChatGPT, it writes for me and it gives me the sources, but quite often you don't even have to do it. So you've got AI agents basically surfing the web.
Oh, anybody else on the panel want to chime in here?
I can chime in. I think it's both partly real and partly hype. I think the real aspect of it is, yes, it's shaping the top of the funnel in terms of filtering or mediating content, creating shortlists, etc. That's all real, and that's not going to go back. I think the hype is, whether it's you can trust it enough to make these decisions, the buying decisions out there. And I think that's where I think we're not there yet. And if we don't trust anyone, a human, for example, or machine in this particular case, then decisions and processes and automation and all of that, that's not there yet. So I think once we get the trust level up, then some of that hype will be realized. So to me, it's both at today.
And I think you're kind of right in the sense it's timing, but it's the real deal in the sense that we have seen changes this significant before, right? We went from on-premises software to software in the cloud. Now that doesn't mean nobody's running any software on a server in their office, but it means the majority of people have moved there, and that's exactly the same thing we're going to see. It's going to move even faster, though, than we have seen these previous changes. That's the one thing I've been impressed with. If you look at the active users we're seeing of ChatGPT and the volume of traffic it's getting, it's grown faster than anything ever has before. It took Google over a decade to get to the traffic volumes that ChatGPT got in 17 months. This is going to happen. It's going to happen way faster than we thought it would.
Alden, anything to
Totally.
add to that?
And some aspects of the agentic stuff is definitely real deal. You can see increased conversions. You can see how much time it is saving. These deep research agents that work. The effect is real. The outcomes are real. On our own website, we are seeing conversions that are like a lot higher. All of those effects are real. But as Jeff said, there is some hype that has not caught up to reality yet, right? Like like Salesforce, for example, like laid off 4,000 people even though their chatbots don't work, right? That sort of hype will catch up to reality very soon.
Thank you. All right, so back to Jeff. If AI is doing more of the heavy lifting in the buying process, where does that leave the human buyer?
I come back to the point of like trust, right? I think the human buyer trust in decision making is what the human's going to continue to play. And and you could actually see this if you go out today and you ask any of the agents out there, what do they think about your product versus your competitors? I can guarantee you that you would not agree with what you see in terms of what the AI agent is responding, right? It's vastly wrong or skewed. So if you don't trust, I mean, if I don't trust what the AI agent is telling me about my own product, why would I trust it for a comparison thing? So it's good in summarizing and getting you out there and creating that short list. But once you get it, the humans have to get involved in terms of trusting it and making decisions, right? So that's where the humans will continue to play till you get that trust meter up. That's my opinion. And yes, as Alden said, in SaaS, etc., it took a long time from the realization of what is in SaaS as a software as a service to now, which is mainstream. So I think it's going to take some time. So the human will continue to play this role of decision making because they're not just going to trust some agent recommending a particular product and spend millions of dollars purchasing it. That's not going to happen in the near term.
So Jeff, what buyer behaviors are you seeing change right now?
I think the buyer behavior is like they've gone used to ChatGPT in terms of relying on it in terms of kind of a head start or a jump start in getting information quick. And they kind of expect the kind of same behavior when they get to the source, right? They get to the company's website, etc. They don't want to go and read, 30 minutes of an ebook or listen to 30 minutes of a video to get to that insight. They want to get educated a lot faster. They don't want to scan, search, navigate. They just want answers. They don't want content. They want answers, right? So the better you provide that capability, that's what they used to, right? They used to, so they want that same kind of interface when they get to the source, right? Again, we are living in a AI mediated world. It's like that happens with like reporting, right? You get reporters reporting what's happening with any particular topic, like whether it's CNN or Fox or whatever. Do you trust them? No, because they're all biased, so it's a second opinion. But when you come to the source, you have to provide that same level of experience. So that's what we're seeing with our customers, et cetera, is, how do you provide that, give the users answers quicker than for them to search, navigate, find, read, get to that insight.
But isn't your product all around delivering like PDFs to buyers? How is that changing for you?
We've evolved, or I mean, early on, if you looked at it, right? Yes, we are using content, whether it's ebooks, white papers, videos, whatever the format of the content, and you want to get educated faster. So we show recommended pieces of content, etc. Kind of that experience that we provide, right? Then we've learned like, okay, that's all great, but they still have to read, view, right? So then the question is like, well, I'm listening to a 30-minute video. Why do I have to sit down and listen? I can just ask questions of that video and get to my insight faster. Then you look at it and say, okay, now what? Then you go to a resource center. Where's that content? Is in like a browse first interface. Users browse, search, navigate, find. It's very tedious now, which is with the agents out there. The agent is actually doing the work for you. It's creating like a composite document, right? And saying, I'm taking a snippet from a video, I'm taking a snippet from a blog, I'm taking a snippet from a case study. So you don't have to do all this stuff. And it's a great user experience for the end user to get educated. But more importantly, for us marketers, we no longer depend on like kind of vanity metrics of how many people viewed my content, right? But we're getting zero party data. We're saying this is exactly what the user is looking for. There's no inference, right? There's no like, well, second party intent with even first party intent. I'm not making an inference. I know exactly what the customer is looking for, and I see how my content is mapping to it, what type of content gaps, etc. So it works both ways. It's much better user experience for the buyer to get educated, and it also gives marketers the insight that they want. So that's what the product does.
Thank you. So Alden, so when AI agents are researching vendors, what specific technical factors do you think that will make one company's content more trustworthy to these AI systems?
Yeah. So I have a list of about 5 things, but there is one which is sort of like counterproductive and sort of hidden, and that is, optimizing towards Bing. Right now, Bing was this unknown engine that nobody cared about, right? Until people realize now that Bing is the thing that is actually powering ChatGPT. So every time you ask something in ChatGPT and you see it quietly doing a search, at the back end, what it's actually doing is powering that search using Bing. So if there is one takeaway here, it is pay attention to your rankings in Bing, right? That is my number one thing that I've been trying to tell people, that if ChatGPT is owns the market and it is Bing that is powering the search, then you need to at least look to see what your rankings in Bing are. The other aspect is that answer engines like ChatGPT, there's a lot of question and answer things happening, which means that your content better have proper structure. Like there are these concepts like schema.org and JSON LD, but having content that is very Q&A heavy, right? Especially given what you see your customers and potential prospects asking, and having the content for that is a good strategy to optimize towards these answer engines. These days we are looking for any form of question that our customers would ask. So we are hunting our help desk, Reddit, our own chatbot to see the questions that customers are asking, so that we can write the corresponding content for those questions. If there is one thing you need to do is pay special attention to any sort of how, what, why type questions that your customers are asking, and write lots and lots of Q&A articles on your website directly related to that, right? My third piece of advice is, just like how people are using AI agents like ChatGPT for a better user experience, when they come to your website, you better have an AI that is reflecting a similar experience, right? Those days of coming to a website and navigating a maze of blue links and trying to do drop downs and navigate the structure, that is gone, right? When somebody comes to your website, you better have like a really, really good revenue agent or AI agent that is almost chat GPT like, that is able to answer questions, right? People have no patience. They will ask in chat GPT, they will come to your website, and they will again want a chat GPT style AI to talk to quickly get what you want. If you all need an example of this in action, you all can check up our website, customgpt.ai. Ever since we deployed a revenue agent on the website, our conversions like 7x, because people were not wasting time like goofing around on landing pages and, clicking around. It's just having conversations, getting their questions answered. So those are my top 2 3 technical signals that I would recommend like all websites to have.
So, Alden, do you think there's like one or two big mistakes or content patterns that you see that are actually causing AI agents to ignore websites?
uh I would say the biggest one is the counterproductive one, which is, there are people have been so hung up on Google that they've not even set up webmaster tools on their own website. Like when I talk to website owners and business owners, they ask as if like, who is Bing? So if there is one thing to that sort of hurts a business, it would be like not paying attention to Bing, right? It doesn't take so much effort. You can literally do it in 10 minutes. But I would say, please pay attention. And then the other aspect is like there were some technical things that people were doing a couple of months ago, like blocking AI bots so that they don't train on your website. If you did any of that, you are going to get hammered in the
Yeah.
AEO engines. So that's like you've cut your own feet if any of that was done. And the rest of the SEO rules still applies. When you use chat GPT, you can see how quickly it is doing the searching, going, getting the content. So if your website is slow, you'll just be timed out in the answer engines. So those technical team factors will also have to come into play.
And really, everything we do for AI optimization it also benefits search, right? So there's
Yeah,
nothing we do that actually is counter to SEO techniques.
yeah, yeah. The only thing I would add to that is, there's a lot of attention being paid to traffic, and I honestly don't care about traffic. I care about conversions, right? If somebody like ChatGPT has massaged the user for 40 minutes and he then comes to my site and buys, I have no problem with that, right? So those old ways of measuring traffic and getting hung up on traffic has to now change towards more a conversion based, thought process rather than a traffic based thought process.
Totally agree. Now we're going to move to Pat. And I just should reveal that I use Revere on one of my clients. And it's just a game changer in how we can measure what's actually happening for their brand. So, Pat, when AI agents are researching vendors, how do I get my brand and content to be considered?
I love it. First of all, measuring is the right way to make sure what you're doing works, and everything you really should measure. But when you think about it, there's two ways. One way is an AI agent has information in its foundation model, so information it learned when it was eventually being made. And then agents also can go out and search the web to get information. And so you really have to make sure you maximize both of those. Search, we know how to do. We've been doing that for a while, right? And so we had the Bing search engine for OpenAI, certainly Google's for Google, but making sure you're optimizing search, that's really important. The second is really, how do you get into that foundation model? And I think there's two things to remember about a foundation model. One is it learns just by sucking up all the great information on the web. So it's really the great summarizer. And so the more people that are talking about your brand, and the more often they're talking about your brand, the better off you're going to be. And so there's a lot of say repetition, more people, that'll help quite a bit. But the second thing to think about is that it is not something that happens instantly, right? The foundation models take time and are taking still a pretty significant amount of time to leverage. And so in the immediate short term, certainly think about search engine optimization.
Great. And so if you had just 30 days to make one change that improves the company's chances of being cited in AI, what would that be?
You know, a lot of the AI engines love sources they trust. And one source that we see over and over that's probably easier, although none of them are easy, is Wikipedia. And so we see over and over and over again, when we look at all the citations for these AI engines, is they're hitting Wikipedia as a source. Certainly Reddit's not far behind. You could also work on Reddit, but Reddit's a little more amorphous. At least with Wikipedia, it's not easy, but you know what you need to do. So my one thing that I'd recommend is making sure you have a Wikipedia page, it's up to date, and it's actually pretty positive about your brand.
Great.
One thing that I'll say about the trust, I know we talked about that a bit later, is these, as I mentioned, it's happening really fast. And when I was last in San Francisco, I literally got into a Waymo and let a Waymo drive me across the city. And if I'm willing to trust AI to get me, across Union Square, I think we're going to have it a pretty, it'll happen. It'll take some time, and it certainly has to be earned. But we're going to see this trust of AI, whether it's purchasing, whether it's making travel reservations, all of that for us a lot faster than we think.
Great. Thank you. I'll come back to Barbara. So you're an expert in this AI disruption, and I just thought the audience should know, I think, Barbara, how many books have you written?
I've written 13.
13 books, right. And a couple on AI also, right?
Yeah, I've actually got a new one coming out that I'm super excited about. All the last ones were all for my institutional investment clients. I basically repackaged my weekly research notes and put it into a book every 8 to 9 months. But this one coming out is actually about how to reimagine human capital. Back in Rome, I gave a talk at a family office investment conference in Italy, talking about my thesis about how I think AI agent capital is going to trigger the biggest capital supply shock we've seen since the second industrial revolution. So way more than the Yellow Pages deal. And I think this is going to lead to the destruction of the white collar class. And so I'm trying to come up with solutions. So that's why I'm writing this book, which is going to be out in like 2 weeks. But it's actually an app. I reimagined it as an app. So it's an app.
Oh, cool. Great. So I'll ask you this question. So as AI transforms how buyers evaluate vendors, what competitive advantages will matter most that companies aren't thinking about today?
It's funny because when I was thinking about this question, I'm like, it's one of the chapters in my book, which is called The New Rules of Value. So basically, this is based on my customer capital pyramid. I came up with this back in 2010, looking at companies like Lululemon, Starbucks, Chipotle, Whole Foods. And so basically, imagine a pyramid. The bottom layer is the functional value proposition, and customer capital is about how companies originate value. So the bottom layer is the functional value proposition. It's about price, convenience, and variety of choice. Now, the problem is with agentic commerce, it has been basically a race to the bottom with platforms like Amazon and Uber. But with agentic commerce, what you're going to see is The AI agents are going to optimize for price and convenience of choice. The only way you're going to be able to compete is on the variety of choice, and you basically have to have exactly what your customer is looking for. And Shopify just made this comment just a few weeks ago, talking about how, you know, it's not going to be the biggest company that's going to win. It's going to be the one that has what their customer is looking for. Then on the middle layer, you've got the emotional value proposition. This is about the emotional connection you have with your customers. And with the problem with AI agents is it's going to be about synthetic emotion. You know, they're going to replicate emotion. You talk to ChatGPT, it's incredible. And you're going to have AI influencers, so it's going to be so hard to compete on this level. Then you've got the psychological value proposition. This is the peak of the pyramid, and this is about creating the psychological attachment with not just your customers but also your stakeholders. Now the problem here, so back in 2016, I published my first book, which I called Ubernomics, which is all about how to create economic abundance and rise above the competition. And it's ironic because now, you know, AI agents are all about creating economic abundance. But the thesis here is, so companies have a social mission of either accessibility, sustainability, or community. Now, the problem in the agentic commerce world is accessibility. Everything's accessible. You can't compete on that. Sustainability, it's hard to do that. It's a bit ironic because these AI agents, AI is consuming so much energy. So it's really hard to argue you've got a sustainable value proposition. So really the last moat is going to be community. And in my book, I talk about how it's creating physical based community. You know, it's about selling physical goods, services, and experiences. So that's hopefully.
Okay, great. And just the last question for you is, so which companies do you think are positioned to win in this agent first commerce?
Yeah, I mean, I'm bullish on all 7 tech giants, but with specific respect to agentic commerce, the 2 that stand out. So if you think about it, the tech giants, they either originate intelligence. These are the companies do ad tech. So this is where Meta Platforms plays and Google plays. Both of these companies are going to lead in agentic commerce. Google is going to get there before Meta, I think, but Meta, you know, they're doing Meta AI. Soon they're going to basically be running it for small businesses and large businesses. Then so you've got that side, and then you've got companies that are extracting intelligence, and this is about extracting physical intelligence. So this is where Amazon plays. You know, they're doing autonomous commerce. They're bringing robots. Obviously, they've already got them in their warehouses, and soon it will be autonomous vehicles delivering the goods. Tesla is also going to be a huge player here because they're going to have their cyber cabs, or they're going to play somewhere delivering goods for companies, and then they got the Optimus humanoid robots, which are going to be working in the warehouses. So those are the 2 plays there. And then the other one, I guess, would be Shopify. You know, Shopify said in the most recent call, they want to take market share. And it makes sense because, you know, when you sell on Amazon, you don't get the customer information. When you sell on Shopify, it's direct to consumer.
Great.
And then the idiot powering basically everything. So that's also company there.
Great, thank you. So I've got a question each for John and Paul, and then I see there's like 37 questions in the chat, so we're gonna keep the last 10 minutes for Q&A. So John, my question for you is, because you sit on a lot of boards, is this disruption to sales being acknowledged in any way? Are you on mute, John?
Yes, I think that I would say a minority of boards I sit on really understand the implications of this. It's just, you know, obviously as a role as a board member, I try to inform them about it. But I would say I'm on 3 different boards, and I would say 2 of them get it, 1 of them doesn't. So, you know, in my case, you know, a majority of them. The 2 are, one's publicly traded, and the other couple are private. And the private ones are more likely to get it sooner because, you know, in my experience, and I think we're also seeing private equity really start to understand because as many of you may know, a lot of the economic returns from private equity over the past couple of decades have basically been their ability to arbitrage, decreasing interest rates, and sell cash flows, at a higher capital value as the interest rates came down. So, and then they had massively cheap debt. Those games are over, at least for the near term. So they're actually going to have to make operational improvements in these companies. So we're seeing a ton of interest in thinking about the entire AI-enabled sales funnel. But one thing I would say, Rosemary, is beware of averages. There's been a couple of things, the MIT study that came out, and there's a lot of talk about people who aren't adopting. Well, this is not an average phenomenon. What we're seeing happen is the best companies are moving ahead faster. Put another way, a bigger amplifier doesn't make you a better guitar player, right? So most businesses are not that well managed, but the businesses that are really well managed are going to crush it, and they're going to take most of the profit pools that are available.
Thank you. All right, Paul. So what do you think CEOs should be monitoring now and focusing on with this massive disruption?
I think for me, it's a mindset that I think the number one thing they need to watch in themselves and their team is overconfident monkey brain that's ostrich. So this idea that, hey, I made a good career, I'm never do this, and to remind them of what we've already seen in our lifetime. We've seen program trading on Wall Street go from, I think, nothing to, I think, 60 or 7% of the market here. And if you go back in the 70s when it started, everyone said a computer is not going to be able to trade in a stock. Pat, to your earlier comment here, autonomous vehicles, that we're never going to see that in a lifetime. Always going to kill that. We're not going to, I think it's 250,000 rides a day or a week now. In the early days of a MapQuest 15, 20 years ago, those first maps were horrible. And now we never have human in the loop for directions here. And I think the same thing. So that kind of mindset that what I'm doing and what we're doing in my company is so special. Deloitte, Goldman, good national law firms, national accounting firms, advertising firms. I can go on and on. That we were always going to have our monkey brains be able to beat these cyber brains, and that's not the case. And most confident management teams don't like this and don't think like that.
Okay. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I'll just let you see the last two slides, and I think Paul will probably share this deck with you after. These are just how we're going to reinvent our B2B customer journey. So I'd like to open it up to questions. Do we have some questions from the audience that haven't been answered in the chat?
Yeah. Can you see the hands, Ian? Or Ian's one, Rosemary?
Oh, hi, Ian. Yes. And please, if it's a question for one of the panelists, please let them know.
Hi, this is just a general question. So with AI agents, it could potentially create a winner takes all in terms of consumer choice. Will challenger brands start to rely more on out-of-home marketing to reach new consumers rather than rely as much on online advertising?
Do we have somebody who'd like to answer that from our panel?
I'll do. I don't know if I have the exact answer. I think it's a great question. But one of the things I think is we're seeing is a huge resurgence of brand. We as marketers, we're so focused on performance marketing. Are we getting our MQLs? Are we getting our leads? How are we getting our website visits? And I think that the marketers who are really forward thinking are realizing, maybe those aren't the right metrics. And what somebody said it today, I forgot who said it today, but I don't really care about those. I care about conversions. I want to measure sales. So I think we're going to see at least marketers certainly change the way they're looking at it and focusing a lot more brand. And Ian, I think that's probably inevitable. Whatever you're going to be able to influence people with brand is, and how you're going to do it is how marketers are going to behave.
But that's a hard one, Pat, because I can tell you that I have clients who still pay a lot of attention to open rates for email, and we know that that's a flawed metric, right?
And it takes time, right? That was what we talked about earlier. It's that trust that we talked about, that trust that Jeff talked about doesn't happen overnight, but hey, it happens eventually. I got into a Waymo. That's crazy. So it'll take some time, but we'll get there.
Great. Thanks. Lucinda.
Yeah. I had a question for both you and Pat. So you had mentioned that what the sort of things that Revere is doing was a game changer in this. Can you just give a anonymized example to understand like what is it that makes it a game changer and what are the results?
Okay, so for me, I mean, actually, there's multiple things. There's so many layers to what we get to see with the Revere data, but there's things like we can understand now the types of questions that are being asked and discussed across all the different platforms about my client's brand. We can also get scores about how are they doing with their reach and their sentiment. What are the positive, negative things that are being said about their brand? And then what I do with the Revere brand, listen to, is I match it to things like win-loss reports, other kinds of content to get really good answers for content teams to write about. Because if they're being discussed in AI, I need to have my clients talking about those things.
Okay, great, thank you. I did have a quick question for Alden, which is I read your article on Bing, but I understand your logic about using Bing for ChatGPT, and then you give all the numbers about ChatGPT. But what I mean, how do I know that if I optimize for Bing that does make a difference as opposed to doing other things? Like just how do I know? Like how can I prove that taking the time to learn Bing's stuff will pay off with conversions?
Yeah, so just to be clear here, I'm not saying like, go like complete, like full on optimization mode with Bing. What I'm saying is just make sure that you're ranking well in it, right? So
Okay.
much attention has been paid on Google that there are people who are literally not appearing in Bing, not realizing that it affects their ChatGPT ratings.
Okay. All right. So
Right.
that's
So just
okay.
keep an eye on it. But to answer like Rosemary's question, if you really have 30 days and you want to focus on something, then focus on your Q&A, right? Your customers
Q&A.
have
Got it.
given you enough signals about what questions are important to them. Write content for those questions.
And
Cool.
Lucinda, the reason people don't pay attention to Bing is because it brings a fraction of the traffic that Google did. So we would never spend time fussing with Bing when Google was the gorilla in the room, right?
Yeah, I see. But now there's an outsized effect because of the ChatGPT effect.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
correct.
Okay, Alexa.
Alex, yes. I thought there was some really great, valuable information that came across tonight. The information about, agents are going to be the first, the robots are going to be the ones who are going to be looking for the information for clients. And so making sure that you're providing clear information, you're understanding what are the questions people have. I love that one about really putting those together and making sure your website has that. And trust was another issue that was brought up multiple times. And I think trust is something that will take time. And there's going to be winners and losers in that. And it's because it's those that are not transparent, don't explain information, all of those that raise a lot of questions for the users where people are going to be hesitant. But those who can really provide that transparency, that's going to make the difference. I did have a question for Barbara Gray. Barbara had mentioned that she saw, I think it's her, I'd love to hear what her newest book is going to be. I didn't catch the name, and she did mention it wasn't a book, it's going to be an app. But she did mention that the white collar, she sees that there's going to be this decline in white collar opportunities, and she's seeing more of this physical goods, selling of physical goods and services and experiences. And I'm just curious whether she saw a lot of innovation in this space and where she saw the innovation.
Yeah, no, this is something you are not seeing yet. In January, I did the most sort of radical, groundbreaking research in my career. And I came to this thesis that, oh my gosh, we're going to see the mass destruction of the white collar class, which is pretty shocking because that's what I am. I spent my whole career as an analyst. I've got my CFA. So I presented this at a conference in Rome. And then I had this existential crisis when I was taking the train from Rome to Florence to meet my family. Like, what am I going to do? And that's what led me to write Reimagine. So initially, it was actually going to be a book to warn professionals about the coming collapse, about what I saw coming. And actually, it's interesting on the note about Yellow Pages. So back in 2008, early 2008, I was one of the first analysts in Canada. Well, I was the first analyst in Canada to say, hey, sell Yellow Pages stock because they're getting disrupted by the shift from scarcity to abundance. So this has been a continuing theme throughout my career. And so I came up and I was going to be at warning, but then, that news hit the headlines. The news of this white collar bloodbath was in the news headlines in June. So I was like, I have to do more. So I actually came up with a solution. And my solution is what I call the humagentic economy. And this is the concept that you've got individuals that can start their own businesses and be empowered by an army of AI agents. Right now, it's not possible, but soon you won't need a lawyer, you won't need a marketing person, you won't need a salesperson, you don't need an accountant, analyst. You're going to be able to do it all yourself. But the thing is, you can't compete against AI. Intelligence, the value of intelligence is going to zero. So you need to do something physical based with physical connection, good services experiences. And so
is this covered in and you said it was an app and it's not a book now?
Yeah. So I sent if you look there, I've got the link there. So it's not out yet.
Is it bradycap.com? Would I find it there if I wanted to look into it?
No, it's if you look on the chat thing, it's journey.reimaginary.com. So
Okay.
it's dot and it's actually not even launched yet, but you can actually preview a couple of chapters right now, and you can sign in to see a couple more. But so I wrote it as a book, but then my husband said, hey, we can create an app. So it's actually, we used, he vibe coded in Replit and made it into an app. And it's really cool. And then we actually used my voice, the narration. We actually used 11 Labs to narrate the book. It's wild. And I put a video in. So it's really about reimagining the future. But this is something people are not talking about. And the reason companies are not talking about it in the earnings calls is they will get crucified by their employees, by their customers.
Absolutely.
My own investment research firm, I've been telling my clients this since December about this thesis of AI agent capital coming in. I can speak the truth. Nobody else will be speaking the truth. This is way bigger than the shift in Yellow Pages.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, and I'm going to go to Tim next. We have a couple minutes.
Yeah, a couple. About Tim and Raymond, then we'll wrap up, Rosemary.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just interested. This is really interesting, of course, and you've been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about it for a long time. I'm interested in how they're going to monetize it. So right now, the big players like ChatGPT are not charging, or well, let's say as far as I can tell, they're not monetizing it directly. So that's part of the puzzle too, right? Because eventually they're going to want to take advantage of this traffic direction, I assume, and make money off it. And how do you think that's going to happen? And how does that impact business models when you suddenly have to deal with that?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Sure. OpenAI
did I not get off mute? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you did.
Thought you didn't.
OpenAI recently partnered with Shopify, so probably the way they're going to do it, and they've quietly partnered. So the way they're going to do it is they're probably going to take a percentage cut, I'm guessing. And the end game for all these guys, for all the tech giants, is basically creating these AI agents to replace white collar workers. There's a massive efficiency surplus there. Think about the average white collar worker makes $100,000 a year. You can replace them for $5,000 a year. You've got a $95,000 annual efficiency surplus. They're going to make trillions. Those are what I call the agentic industrialists. Unfortunately.
Raymond?
Wow, this is great, awesome. Barbara, thank you so much. That's great intel. Couple things I wanted to hit on real quick because I know we don't have a lot of time. I worked for a company called Local Matters in 2004 in Denver with Perry Evans, and our whole thing was taking Yellow Pages, and we ended up transitioning into a real estate. But we were doing international Yellow Pages, and then we were scraping that data and tying it to locations. That was 2004. It transitioned into a real estate company. As far as agentic businesses, they exist today. I have colleagues that are doing it. They're running all kinds of agents and they're by themselves. And it's very efficient. And then the other thing someone mentioned, like how are these big guys going to make money? Look forward to ads.
I totally agree on the look forward to ads. I think ads is possible, commerce is possible. But I think what's shocking to me is OpenAI last week said they expect to burn through $115 billion in cash by 2029. And the market didn't blink. Nobody blinked. It's okay. So we're going to see it. But I think that's something that's going to not come as fast as a lot of us think. I think that one's going to be pretty slow.
So we're at time. Sona, you want to do a real fast one, and then we'll close.
Yeah, that's appreciated. Hey, Barbara, one of the things you mentioned was, to avoid this loss of the white collar jobs, we should do something physical. One of the things you mentioned was businesses. Do you have other ways that we can prepare for a loss of white collar jobs? Like what kind of, besides starting your own business and using agents to propel that, any other ideas?
I think you have three choices. One, you put your money in the market and you hope you can retire soon in a couple of years before AGI or ASI kicks in. Two is you go get a service job. You take a blue collar job or you take a white or a pink collar job, caretaking and stuff. And three, I really think we're going to see a massive tsunami of displaced white collar workers starting their own businesses. And in my reimagined book, I actually have 27 AI agent prompts that takes you, and it's based on all my strategic frameworks, the customer capital one I talked about, plus structural capital, plus economic capital. And it basically takes you from helping you come up with an idea all the way to building your whole capital strategy tech stack. So that's what I see. It's sad. It's hard because I love my white collar job, but I'm looking for the future, and you're gonna have to eventually do what I call the secret pivot. You build your digital version of your unicorn, but then you pivot to the physical version because you will not be able to compete. The digital layer is going to collapse.
So it would be like a physical business, maybe like whatever, some way you can have a physical footprint.
Yeah, selling something on Shopify, what you see on Shark Tank, doing experiences, doing services, but it has to be in person. I think a lot of it's going to go back to the local community and stuff.
Okay, that's reassuring though, the local community aspect of it.
Well, great. Well, Rosemary, Barbara, Pat, Alden, fantastic discussion. Thank you. Let's do it again. I'm sure we do this in 60 days. A lot of things have changed and everything else, and let's keep the learning going here.